Hi, I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones, and in this video, we're going to talk about the art of mesmerizing as we talk about the program Conversational Hypnosis, the art of mesmerizing. So we're going to specifically talk about the art of mesmerizing in this video. You know, when it comes to hypnotizing someone, there are many ways to go about it. There's, of course, a direct approach, and with a direct hypnotic suggestion, you tell someone exactly what they will experience and feel and believe and so forth. For example, you will now go into a deep trance. Now, when we take an indirect approach, it's a little bit different. Now, in an indirect approach, that's a little different. Through an indirect hypnotic suggestion, you attempt to confuse someone with hypnotic words mixed with the indirect suggestion. For example, sooner or later, you'll find yourself wondering about going into a deep trance, and you may do that suddenly or gradually. Now, because the hypnotic words wondering, going into a trance, aren't exactly defined, the mind of the person must stop to consider the words, and this causes them to search their subconscious mind for meaning and to fill in the missing bits, and it helps to ease them into a trance. So, what is conversational hypnosis? Well, conversational hypnosis is a method of hypnosis that uses indirect suggestion to open the subconscious mind. And these suggestions are specifically meant to force a subject to think about what the suggestion might mean. And in doing so, it makes the subconscious search for something that fits the subject's understanding of the words used. Now, this often means that the subconscious finds something from the subject's past which relates to the indirect message and assigns value to it, allowing the subject to more easily believe the direct suggestion. So you may be wondering, in which instances can conversational hypnosis be used? Well, it's useful in a lot of cases. As a clinical hypnotherapist myself, I can use it when talking to someone who might be a difficult client in a hypnotic setting. So if I'm working with them in the office and they've come to me for hypnosis, but I know they're a difficult client, I may use conversational hypnosis in that setting to get them going to a trance without them consciously being aware of when the trance actually starts. So I'm accomplishing the job they're paying me to do, but I'm doing it in a way that I know is going to be more effective. Because if I say, okay, it's time for the formal session now, let's go hypnotize you, I'm drawing a lot of attention to it. There's a lot of fanfare around it. There's a lot of flags going off in their mind. It's hypnosis time, and if they're resistant, that draws too much attention to it. So I can use it indirectly. I can use conversational hypnosis in a clinical setting if I know that they're going to be a difficult client, if I've worked with them before, things of that nature. Conversational hypnosis is also used quite often in everyday life. People use conversational hypnosis, and if you watch enough of my videos and read enough of my material, you'll see that it has many, many instances for use. So, what does that mean for the subject? Well, suppose you have a friend who wants to find love, but they have a limiting belief that they aren't worthy of love. And this happens so often. I've seen a lot of clients of mine come into my office and they want to make money, but they have a limiting belief about money. They want to find their soulmate, but they have a limiting belief about their soulmate. So I see this so often. Using a direct suggestion such as you are worthy of love or you are worthy of money may not work because the subconscious mind may have a difficult time believing it. They may be consciously resisting it as well. But using indirect suggestion, you can get around this and force, if you will, the subconscious to see the truth in the suggestion that you're planting. For example, I wonder how aware you are that there are many people around who love you for who you are. There's a perfect example. Now, let's talk about how to get people's attention. Now that we've talked about conversational hypnosis, let's talk about how you can use it to covertly get someone's attention. And realize that developing this skill is useful in the art of mesmerizing others. And it's going to help you become a better conversational hypnotist. So to really get their attention, you need to start by developing deep rapport. And there are several ways to develop deep rapport, but one of the most common and effective ways is to mimic their body language, sitting like they sit. Now, not exactly mimicking their body language. If you do it exactly, you may get caught doing this, and we don't want that. You know, when I'm working in an office setting with a client and I'm attempting to get them to perceive me as being similar to them, not exactly them, but similar to them, I want to do things similar to what they're doing. You know, I still want to maintain the Dr. Steve G. Jones idea. So here I am, I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones, I'm here to help, I'm not you, but I also want them to feel that I am like them in some ways, you know, in the way that maybe we have things in common, like common hobbies, common interests, in that way. I want them to feel a rapport with me. So sitting like they sit, for example. Tilting your head in the same way that they tilt theirs. Not exactly, and especially not if they're doing something extreme. If they're really tilting it like this, you do not want to do that. That's way too obvious for a client. You want to make sure that you're not doing it just like them. Far too obvious. So you want to make sure that you're doing it similarly, but not exactly like them. Also, breathing at the same rate as them. If you can figure out, some people are very subtle about their breathing, but if you can see how quickly or slowly they're breathing, as long as it's not extreme, you don't want to make yourself pass out by breathing very slowly if they're breathing very slowly, or hyperventilate by breathing very quickly if they're breathing very quickly. But if they're breathing normally and you can see how often their chest rises and falls, how often they're taking a breath, then breathing like them can help put you in rapport. We call that pacing, and that's physiological pacing, pacing something that their body is doing as part of a natural unconscious process. People find comfort in similarities, and it's an easy way to capture their attention. Think about it. Social media marketing. They'll show you what your friends think about something because your friends have similar interests to some degree as you do. You see your friends liking something, and then you will like that thing because your friends like it. You think, okay, if my friends like it, I probably will like it too. And that's probably correct, actually. So people find comfort in similarities. So if you can create similarities by doing things similar to them, then you can put them at ease. You can also generate rapport through the language that you use and your tonality. You know, using similar language and tone as your client or the person you're working with in conversational hypnosis. So by doing these things, you can really establish rapport. And when I say same tone, I mean maybe they have a really high-pitched voice, so you wouldn't want to imitate that. And by the way, the word imitation is something you want to avoid. If you're imitating them, that's almost like you're making fun of them. So you want to do things similarly to them, but not exactly imitate them. There's a fine line. And the way that line gets crossed is if they have something very extreme, something where they have a very deep voice or a very high voice. So you might think, well, I'll just match their tone. But if you match the tone of someone extreme like that, it's going to be discovered that you're attempting to match their tone, or it's going to be more than likely perceived that you're making fun of them. And neither of those is resourceful for you as a conversational hypnotist. So you want to do things like them. Another way to do that is to use words like them. You know, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic words are very powerful. If you find that the person you're talking to primarily uses visual words, such as, I see what you mean, or I'm looking toward the future, or if they describe something and they describe what they see about it, then you may want to use words that are also visually based. Talk about what they can see, about the change they want to make, or what they can see in terms of the future they're going to have if they go with your company, or if they do whatever it is that you're involving them in. Then they're going to be more likely to relate to you because you're establishing that rapport with them. Also, if they're auditory, you know, if they talk about things that they can hear, you know, I hear what you're saying. I hear you, man. You know, some people say that, or some people say, I feel you, man. You've heard that expression, perhaps. I hear you, I feel you. You know, don't just throw those things out. Those expressions, although they are slang expressions, carry a lot of interesting material, a lot of data that you can use. If someone says, I hear you, then you can use that, understanding that they, at least sometimes, relate to their world in auditory terms. So you can start to talk about the things that you want to share with them in terms of the sound. You know, what's it going to sound like if they buy that car? What's it going to sound like if they go on that date with you to that concert? What's it going to sound like if they are working with you in a therapeutic setting in an office and they get the applause of the audience when they deliver that perfect speech that they're going to deliver at the next event that they have to attend? So we have visual and auditory. We also have kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is interesting because in my way of looking at it, it deals with motion, you know, walking and moving. It also deals with feelings. You can involve feelings. Kinesthetic people are kind of what we would call touchy-feely people. They're hands-on people. So anytime you can describe how it would feel to move through that. So selling a car, for example, perfect example. It's always easy to use car salespeople in these types of examples. So you're selling a car. What's it going to feel like when they sit in that seat and touch that leather steering wheel, and when they're driving on the road and they're feeling the car, they're feeling the power and the weight of the car, and they step on the gas pedal and they feel the power of the car as it revs up and gets more power and goes from 0 to whatever it does in however many seconds. What's it going to feel like? If someone's kinesthetic and they talk about how they feel or how their body feels or the temperature, things like that, motion, doing things, then you want to talk about that. Now, this again refers to making them comfortable through similarity. In this case, you're talking their language. What about creating the trance? Well, once you develop rapport and covertly captured the subject's attention, the next step is to induce the trance state. And when attempting to master the art of mesmerizing others, conversational hypnosis is the key. And as we've already talked about, the indirect suggestions are often more effective than direct suggestion for those with limiting beliefs. Now, conversational hypnosis uses hypnotic language through regular conversation, and the delivery of this language causes the subject to stop and think, which then allows their subconscious mind to open. And it's through this opening that your suggestions slip in, unnoticed by the conscious mind, and they can take root. Essentially, you're putting them into a trance without making any direct suggestions, but by talking to them. Now, when you talk about embedded ideas in their mind, that's very interesting. Using indirect suggestion gives you a starting point for opening a subject's subconscious mind. However, at some point while they're in the trance, you want to embed ideas in their mind to help them overcome whatever limiting beliefs they may hold, if you're working with them in a therapeutic setting like I do. Now, to do this, you're going to need to learn language patterns that aren't obvious, but conversational in tone. Imagine is a great starting point. It doesn't ask the subject to believe anything, only to imagine the possibilities. And with their subconscious mind already open, thanks to your indirect suggestions, it gives the subject an opportunity to really picture the scenario and embed the idea of possibility. Here's another one. You. The word you. That's a replacement for the subject's name, and it puts them in the spotlight. By using this in a subtle way, it suggests to the subject's subconscious mind that the individual is capable of whatever suggestion you're attempting to embed. What would it be like if? You know, this is a wonderful one because then you can fill in the blanks. If you were to blank. Again, another wonderful set of words. I just love words so much and how they work so well with the subconscious mind. Here's another one. You don't have to blank. You fill in the blanks. Also, notice blank. These are words that if you use them with what you're doing, they're going to have a lot of power. And let me repeat them for you. In this final list, what would it be like if blank? You know, if you could see yourself driving this car, if you could make that change, if you could let go of binge eating, if you could let go of smoking, what would it be like if blank? It opens up the possibilities. If you were to blank, fill in the blanks. If you were to drive this car, if you were to change your life, if you were to make that decision that you've been putting off, and the other one, you don't have to blank. That relieves them of something. Now, a lot of people say, oh, negative wording doesn't work. tell you this, go to a stage hypnosis show and watch the part where they say, you won't remember your name. See if that works. It does work. So negative wording actually does work. I usually avoid it. I like to use positive wording, especially in my hypnosis recordings, but negative wording actually does work. So you don't have to blank. This relieves them of whatever they thought they had to do. You don't have to worry, you don't have to smoke, you don't have to think about other cars, etc. And again, notice blank. Notice the changes you're making, for example. Now these phrases are all conversational in nature and they don't have a direct suggestion in them. Conversational hypnosis is about getting a subject to notice the possibilities available to them. I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones, hoping you have an outstanding day.